My parents took my first paycheck to teach me a life lesson. One day you'll thank us for this. The real world doesn't care about your feelings. That was what my parents told me after taking almost every dollar from my first paycheck. I was 16 when I started working at a restaurant after school. While my friends went home, played games, or enjoyed their weekends, I changed clothes and went straight to work. I cleaned tables, carried dishes, dealt with rude customers, and picked up every extra shift I could. I was exhausted, but I was proud, because for the first time in my life, I earned something myself. My first paycheck was $640. I wanted to save for college, buy a better laptop for school, and finally stop asking my parents for money. Instead, my dad took $600. I thought it was a joke. It wasn't. He called it rent. He said food, electricity, and having a roof over my head weren't free. My mom agreed. They told me they weren't raising a spoiled kid who expected the world to hand them everything, and I believed them, because they were my parents. I convinced myself there was a reason. Maybe they were secretly saving it. Maybe when I turned 18, they'd hand everything back and tell me they were teaching me discipline. So I kept working, and they kept taking. For 2 years. I missed parties because I couldn't afford them. I wore old clothes because buying new ones meant losing the little money I had left. I watched everyone else enjoy being teenagers while I spent mine paying bills I shouldn't have been responsible for. But the entire time, my parents bragged about it. They told relatives they were teaching me responsibility. Everyone praised them for raising such a hardworking child. Then I found out the truth. There was no savings account. No surprise. No lesson. The money was gone. Vacations. Expensive dinners. Random things they wanted. They spent thousands of dollars I earned while convincing me it was for my future. When I confronted them, I expected guilt. Instead, my father said, "You should be grateful. Without us, you wouldn't know how to survive." That was the moment I stopped trusting them, because I realized they weren't preparing me for the real world. They were the reason I needed to escape it. The day I turned 18, I moved out, and it was hard. Harder than I expected. Rent, bills, working while studying. There were nights I barely slept because I was trying to keep everything from falling apart. The worst part was knowing I could have had savings. Money I worked for. Money they took. But I kept going. Years passed. Eventually, I built a stable career, bought my own home, and created the life I wanted. The same parents who barely contacted me suddenly became proud. They told everyone my success was because of how they raised me. They called me their greatest achievement. Then I learned why they really came back. They were struggling financially. They wanted me to support them. My dad even said, "After everything we did for you, this is how you repay us?" And suddenly, I was 16 again. Except this time, I wasn't scared to say no. I reminded them of the lesson they spent years teaching me. Nobody gets a free ride. Nobody owes you anything. The real world doesn't care about your feelings. They called me cruel. They said family takes care of family. But I was their family when I was 16. I was their family when they took my money. I was their family when they watched me struggle. They taught me how to survive without depending on anyone. And they were right. I just don't think they expected that one day they would become the people I learned to survive without.